Let's move on to Marvel and their TV universe and what's happening on the ABC front, because it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
And, but you are dealing with both Marvel playing things close to the vest, and ABC is an odd network. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but ABC is very notable. If you look right now at all the networks, is the only one who has not officially renewed anything. And they do this every year. Shows we know are like How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal are freaking coming back.
Yes.
But they don't give those early renewals that the other networks do to the gimmies for whatever reason.
Well, they like to keep it suspenseful,
Just
like with their programming.
Ooh, yes, just like Shonda Rhimes has taught them to be suspenseful.
This is how you end a season, people.
And so I remember last year it was like, is S.H.I.E.L.D. getting renewed? Very likely. Is Agent Carter happening? Maybe.
Unlikely.
Well, no, I'm saying last year.
Sorry,
I'm saying last year.
Last year.
And we didn't know until 3 days, like right before their upfront. It was like they put out the announcement all at once.
Yeah.
S.H.I.E.L.D. renewed, Agent Carter ordered. So now we've got, again, is S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back? Probably. And especially because of all this news coming out, because we heard that there was a S.H.I.E.L.D. Spinoff in development.
Which would be very odd to have a S.H.I.E.L.D. spinoff with no S.H.I.E.L.D.
With no S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, 2 years in. It's not like S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been on for 8 years and you're doing the Frasier.
And then you're doing the Frasier
passing
bridge.
The torch. Yeah.
Does it seem to you that no spinoff has felt quite as different tonally as Frasier to Cheers? Let's discuss that later.
Lou Grant to Mary Tyler Moore. I'm going real old school. It changed from a half-hour comedy to a 1 hour drama.
Okay.
Everything. There you go.
We're going to swing back to this at a later date.
Yeah. Trapper John to MASH. I'm just going to go 70s people. But yeah, so yeah, exactly. They're not going to do a spin-off if they're canceling S.H.I.E.L.D. 2 years in. So S.H.I.E.L.D.'s coming back.
Okay.
Even though it is funny because S.H.I.E.L.D.'s not a big hit, right?
No, it's not.
It's doing okay.
It's doing okay. More of the genre fans should have climbed back on board and given it another chance. I hope that people do in between seasons catch up.
That has they're hearing a lot more people say, "Hey, it got really, really fun. You should catch up." So S.H.I.E.L.D. we think is coming back. The spinoff is a possibility, which we'll talk a bit more in a second. And then it broke that one of the trades broke that John Ridley, the Oscar-winning writer of 12 Years a Slave, who currently has American Crime on ABC, has another Marvel project that he's developing, not the spinoff of S.H.I.E.L.D. for ABC. So suddenly you've got the potential for those 3 shows plus the question mark of Agent Carter.
Yeah.
But then the more you hear about these shows, the less you're like...
The more you feel like Agent Carter was probably going to end up being a one-off
Right,
season.
which is a bummer.
It is a bummer because it was great. And I'm not sure if people didn't get on board because they had already deboarded the S.H.I.E.L.D. train and the ABC Marvel train. I'm not sure why it didn't take off. It was the
reviews were there for sure.
The reviews were there. The critical response was there.
Yeah. I mean, so we shouldn't count anything out because I do think there's a lot of different factors here. Just the fact that when you look at S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ratings, this is not a show that you'd think they'd be like, maybe next year we'll have 3 Marvel shows on the air, Let's
talk about the spinoff and what... Well, you don't want to go there yet.
Oh, no, I think we should.
Am I jumping there?
Because it wouldn't. Did you see the news last night about the spinoff?
What was the news last night? Well, I was
Mockingbird and Hunter. It's that's what it looks to be. That they're signing Adrian Palicki.
That's surprising.
I get it though because I didn't think it would be Skye because she's been too integral to S.H.I.E.L.D. itself. Deathlock seemed like a possibility, but when you think about this season, they brought her in. They quickly upped her to a series regular, and so it kind of made sense to me when they did that. And then I heard about the spinoff that might be to kind of lock her in.
I guess I thought she was actually more headed towards, and this may still happen, towards at least some kind of a role in the movies.
Right. So here's my question: Is I had a tweet a couple weeks ago before the John Ridley project. We'll talk more about that in a second. Was announced that was saying. In my dream wish world for how ABC and Marvel decide to do things, next year, S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and the spinoff all are like 10 to 13 episodes.
Perfect.
And we rotate through all 3 through the season.
That would be ideal. I don't think we're going to get that.
I don't think we're going to get exactly that, although I think we're going to get a bridge again, and I don't know if it's the spinoff or it's the John Ridley show.
I don't know. I mean, well, it depends on what the John Ridley show is, which character it is, or I'm assuming that it will be...
Right. Something.
Well, I guess I shouldn't assume anything, really.
And let's talk about, and this is way more dubious than the Mockingbird thing, which is Deadline and I'm sure is right. But there was like a very sort of guy on Reddit who's had some things come through before post and then he removed it, which if you could say maybe that's because he was saying something that he shouldn't have said. But that it might be Miss Marvel, the teenage new Miss Marvel.
Which is an interesting marriage, that creator and Miss Marvel, but Miss Marvel's a great fit for ABC.
It is a great fit for ABC. It's a little weird because her character in the comics is all inspired by Captain Marvel, and this would then have her beat the Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, which
they'd have to change that. Yeah.
That is another confusing element, I think. That element is a little confusing, but I mean, kick butt teen girl. It's great for ABC.
It is. And they said that she probably wouldn't be in the costume through most of that first season, and it would be a shorter season. My biggest thing here is because S.H.I.E.L.D.'s not a huge hit, I don't see ABC saying, "Yeah, we're going to give 3 nights of programming over to Marvel." There will be time sharing involved, and at the least, it's I think the S.H.I.E.L.D. split with one of those shows in the middle. But I mean, honestly, because S.H.I.E.L.D. has gotten a lot better, but, I know you and I agree, and I think more and more people agree that heavily serialized shows are better when they're shorter seasons.
Absolutely.
Even the people involved on S.H.I.E.L.D., it's tough to do 22. There's always going to be those episodes that are like, what are we doing right now,
I think that's kind of the perfect answer for this, because it's not, also as a viewer, I think you're more inclined to kind of like invest if you know it doesn't. It feels overwhelming at this point, I think, for viewers, because there's so much media. It's, it's not when this model was invented anymore, and because there's so much of it, it's like, oh, it's only 10 episodes. I can do that, because even if I fall behind, it's easy enough to catch up, you know? But when it's 22, once you fall in a certain amount behind, you no longer feel as invested to catch up unless you are paid to do so.
Right. It is tougher. And I do think that, again, knowing that there's bigger corporate reasons that these are all happening involving ABC, Disney, and Marvel all being one corporate entity, I feel like maybe they would think it's in their best interest to do less S.H.I.E.L.D. and then timeshare, because it's kind of keeping the Marvel brand alive on ABC, but you can cycle through these different stories and characters. And obviously if one super took off, then that could get expanded.
But I also feel like in terms of with Mockingbird, I mean, I feel like the way to do that is have them go off on like a very specific mission.
Kind of like Agent Carter did.
Like for an arc, and have that be the crux of that series for that season, and then maybe they get another mission, you know?
Just even S.H.I.E.L.D., the way they split the season, I mean, it was funny, Joshua, comics editor, mistakenly thought it was in season 3, and I understood why he thought that, because the split
was so different.
It was like, it's like 2 seasons.
It felt like 2 seasons too. I mean, I guess, I knew this wasn't going to happen, but as a viewer, like the thing that I would like to see spin-off is the Inhumans. It's not going to happen because there's a movie.
Right.
But like, and maybe this just speaks more to what
honestly, it's probably too big for budget-wise.
I know, because you can't do all those makeups and the effects and stuff to actually make it work, and you'll get that in the movie. But it's just like what I was most interested in from this season, and what I would like to. And it's still such a mystery that it'd be fun to go explore that and like see how they behave on their own.
Right. But it's funny, just wrapping up here on this topic, I think it's funny because right now it's all very murky and strange. And then I think, we're very close to upfronts. I think in less than 4 weeks, we'll suddenly know.
Have some answers.
Like, here's the plan, here's what they're doing. And I think it won't be traditional. I think it's going to be, because people were complaining, like, and I understand the worry about, like, oversaturation and whatnot. But on the Marvel side, they haven't had more than one show at a time. I mean, Daredevil's kind of an outlier, or all the Netflix shows are, because the way they put them up. It's like, but most people are going to consume those in a weekend. It's like really S.H.I.E.L.D. and Carter, and those didn't air at the same time. So I think it's going to still be something like that next year. But
we'll find out.
We'll find out soon.